Hello everyone, it's Infinity here with a quick Frost Maze guide. In this video I will be going over the legendaries, the conduits, the stats and the talent setup that you both need for raiding at Mythic Plus. Remember, this is all speculated on pre-raid information that I found, so there's still a chance that it will change when the raid is actually out. If that's the case, I will be making a new guide. First, I will be going over the talents, since for both Mythic Plus and for raiding, you're most likely going to use the same talents anyway. And it's also going to help a lot when I explain the legendary choices and the conduits as well, if you know what talents you're going to run. So on the first row, we're going to start with Lonely Winter. Why Lonely Winter? Well, it's basically just a flat out damage boost to 25% of most of your damaging abilities, like Frostbolt, Ice Lance and Flurry, which are your main damage source. So it's just really good. On the second row, I'm using Shimmer. That's because of the fact that I just like to have an additional blink that's just an effect by the global cooldown. You could go with Icy Flows if you know that the fight's going to be heavy movement involved. But yeah, I'll just go with Shimmer because I like it more than Icy Flows. On the third row, you have two options actually. The first one, which I recommend if you don't have an additional mage in your group, especially a fire or frost mage, is Rune of Power. Because with the new changes, whenever you hit combustion or icy veins, you're gonna get a Rune of Power instantly underneath you, which is just really helpful in the beginning of a burst. Then we're gonna talk about the second option that you could potentially pick if you have another mage in your group. It's Focus Magic. What does it do? Well, it increases the target's chance to critically hit with spells by 5% for 30 minutes. When the target critically hits, your intellect and chance to critically hit with your spells is increased by 5% for 10 seconds. So basically, if you're using this on a target that crits a lot like Frost Mage or Fire, you're gonna have a really high uptime on 5% crit for your own spells as well. So not only you're boosting someone else's damage, you're also boosting yourself. And this actually stacks if you use it with another mage. So you can get a 10% crit on your spells instead. So if you're having a second mage in your party, Focus Magic is viable. But otherwise I will just ignore it and go for Rune of Power because it's just really strong for a single target, for AoE, for everything in the game basically. On the fourth row, you want to pick Chain Reaction because your Ice Lances gains an additional damage each time you have an Ice Lance proc. And this stacks up for 5 times. So if you're lucky, you're able to get a 15% damage increase on your Ice Lance during your burst, which is really strong. The other options are sadly not up to par with Chain Reaction. I myself, I'm actually a really big fan of Eben Bolt, but it's just not strong enough compared to Chain Reaction. So that's why we're picking Chain Reaction instead. On the fifth row, you actually have what you like basically. It doesn't impact anything at all. I'm just using Frigid Winds because of it's a passive spell, and it's just always reducing the target's movement speed by an additional 10%, which is just helpful. On the fifth row, you want to pick Splitting Ice on both single target and AoE and Cleave. It's just that amazing. Since most of your damage is, from this point you know it, is coming from Ice Lances, it's just really good that it increases your Ice Lance damage by 5% and it hits a second target for an additional 65% of that damage. You can also pick Freezing Rain, but that's only whenever there's a really big group of AoE, like Sunkeeper in the raid, or when it's teaming weak. Otherwise, I'll just stick with Splitting Ice. It just makes your Ice Lance deal more damage, it hits a second target, and it's just really, really strong. And then we're getting to our last talent. The reason why we're picking certain legendaries and certain conduits as well. It's Thermal Void. It increases your Ice Veins duration by an additional 10%, and also each Ice Land that you use against a frozen target extends your Icy Veins cooldown by an additional second. This is just by far the strongest one of them all. Ray of Frost just doesn't deal enough damage. Glacial Spike, same thing, just not enough damage. With Thermal Void and the new legendaries and your conduits, it's just gonna get such a long uptime that it's just destroying Ray of Frost and Glacial Spike. I'm going to the legendaries after this and the conduits as well, but Thermal Void is the only option that you can pick for both raiding and Mythic Plus. Now, for the legendaries. For raiding single target, well, for most of the raiding, you want to use Slick Ice. While Icy Veins is active, each Frostbolt you cast reduces the cast time of Frostbolt by 2%, and it increases its damage by 2%, stacking up 10 times. What this means is, during your Icy Veins, you're going to cast so many Frostbolts, so you're going to have a lot of Iceland procs, which is increasing the duration of Ice Veins again. That's the entire reason why we're also picking the talents that we chose. Also, Slick Ice is on one of the best pieces that you can get. On the legs, it's going to have the highest stats, which you can choose which stats you get as well. That's also why it's just one of the best legendaries that you can use. As you can see in this chart there, on this chart, you're going to see how much stronger it is compared to any other legendary. As you can see, it's just going through the roof on single target. For the Mythic Plus legendary, you're going to use the Glacial Fragments one. What it does is Iceland has 20% chance to explode into shards of ice when it hits a target, dealing X amount of frost damage up to 5 enemies near your target. This chance is actually increased to 100% if your target is standing in a blizzard. And as you know, Mythic Plus has a lot of trash that you need to do. So you're just clicking a frozen orb, you're just casually casting a blizzard, and boom, everything is dead because Iceland's just critting and hitting so many targets that everything is just vaporizing, even though you're a frost mage. So, as you can see on this chart as well, Glacial Fragments is just so much better than any other legendary. It's the only viable choice that you can actually pick for Frost, for a Mythic Plus. And now for the Conduicts. Sadly, there's only one viable Conduit for Frost Mage, which is Icy Propulsion. What it does is, while Icy Veins is active, your critical hits reduce its cooldown by 0.9 seconds. If you can remember why we picked the talents Thermal Void and the legendary Slick Ice, and you have the Conduit Icy Propulsion, like I said before, you're gonna have such a high uptime on Icy Veins that's just insane. There's also a shard on hero damage, where you can see up here. It's just how much better it is than any other Conduit. So it's not even worth to mention any other Conduit besides this one, because it's just so much better than anything else. The only place, sadly, where it can drop is in Plaguefall from the second boss. So I would recommend, if you have the time, to clear Plaguefall Heroic each day to maximize your chances of getting Icy Propulsion. Also, I know it's a Frost Mage guide, but I'm just going to say it here as well. The BIS Conduit for Fire Mage is also dropping from this instance. So if you have the time, I would really recommend to farm out Plaguefall in order to get both of your BIS Conduits in case Fire is still better than Frost. And as last, the stats of a Frost Mage. So because of the new system in place from Shadowlands is that you're actually getting punished if you're stacking too much of a certain stat, it has shifted some things around. So for now, your main stat is going to be Intellect. After that, you want to get 33.3% crit rate if you can, because if you have that amount, you're always guaranteed to crit with a Frozen Shatter. After that, you want to get Haste, then Versatility, and as last, Mastery. So to summarize everything up, you want to go with this talent setup, together with the legendary Slick Ice, together with the Conduit Icy Propulsion, in order to get the highest uptime on your Icy Veins, together with this stat setup. Anyway, that was it for this guide. I hope you enjoyed and you learned something out of it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. It will really help me out a lot. Anyway, I'm also probably going to make a Fire Mage guide later this week, so stay up to date. Alright, thank you all for watching and have a good day. Bye bye.